טוב, אני אתחיל עם מי שנמצא. אני רואה שגם אני לוסנג עוד לא נכנסה. אתה תיכנס בקרוב. ככה אני רק אעבור על הדברי פתיחה. תסלחו לי, זה היוטיוב. אוקיי, אז קודם כל שמי עני, למי שלא מכיר. אני שמח להיות פה, לא יוצא לי הרבה להגיע לקורסים, אז אני שמח שיש לי את ההזדמנות. אנחנו היום נתחיל את הקורס בעצם שהוא בכמה חלקים של הלם רים, שתעביר לנו אותו המורה אני לוסנג. אז אני רק אתחיל עם כמה דברים, פרטים טכניים לפני שנתחיל בשיעור. כמו שאתם רואים, בטח כתוב לכם פה, אנחנו מוקלטים בשידור חי ביוטיוב, ומי שבמקרה לא יוצא לו להיפגש בשיעורים הבאים, או יוצא ולא נכנס, אז הוא יכול להיכנס דרך היוטיוב. אפשר או דרך אתר היוטיוב ולחפש DFI ישראל, או דרך האתר של ידידי הדרמה. אנחנו מבקשים מאוד לפתוח מצלמות. אני מאוד אוהבת ככה לראות תגובות, לפעמים גם לקבל תשובות לשאלות, וככה זה מאוד מאוד חשוב שהמצלמות יעבדו, אם זה אפשרי. עד כמה שאני יודע, אין לנו חומרי עזר לקורס, אולי אני לה תעביר לנו אחר כך. לגבי הפעילויות של ידידי הדרמה, אני ממליץ לכולם להיכנס לאתר, יש שם עוד המון פעילויות שאפשר לראות, דברים שכבר הוקלטו, דברים שעדיין רצים ברמה שבועית, אז מאוד מומלץ. ולגבי דנה, אני רק אעביר עכשיו בצ'אט, אני אכניס את הפרטים של התשלום לדנה, אנחנו פה הכל עושים בהתנדבות, כמו שבטח רובכם יודעים, ובאמת הכל נעשה עם תרומות, כל ההוצאות שלנו באמצעות תרומות, אז מאוד נשמח לכל תרומה שרק אפשר. אני רואה שאני לה כבר נכנסה, אז אני אעביר לה את זכות הדיבור. רגע אחד. Ani Losang, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Now,
we're ready to go.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, great to see you.
Right.
Okay, so we're ready to go.
We're ready to go. Okay. So, good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing not too bad, as one says. And so we will start with this text, which is called Lam Rim. So, you know, very often the Lam Rim is being seen a little bit like, yeah, it's for beginners so that they know the path and they know how to practice. So in a way, it's true. It's a very good way of knowing the whole path, like how one goes step by step. But it's not a text for beginners. It's more a text for somebody. It's like a manual, like a meditation or a practice manual, how to go on about from our unenlightened state, from a state where we are under the control of our afflictions, negative emotions, a state where we are not able to live our values, even though we have them and we would like to live them, and a state where, you know, so many things happen to us that if we would have a choice, we would not choose them. So this is basically, this is where we are in. So this Lam Rim is like going on a journey, knowing exactly where you want to go, but also then, you know, what are the parts of this journey? Where do you have to go first, and so on. And why it is put like this? It's like the root text is from a Sangha where he saw that, you know, is it a Sangha? Yeah, I think so. No. Which is the cause? Anyway, so the root text is from Noda Sangha, from the one who went to Tibet. Anybody can help me there with the
Atisha.
Atisha. Yeah, right. Thank you very much. So because he saw that there is 84,000 teachings of the Buddha, and it's very difficult to practice them all. And also these teachings have been, they have been given to different audiences. So sometimes they might even look a little bit contradicting. So then he put them together in a kind of step-by-step going manual, or yeah, probably manual is a good word, in order to be able to, first we listen to this whole thing, then we think about it, and then afterwards, when we have thought about it and we find it reasonable to practice this, and we find there's some truth in it, then we sit down and meditate on it. Or, when we say we sit down and meditate on it, of course, it's repeating the whole thing again and again and again until our habits and tendencies have developed, or have kind of changed into something more wholesome, something that we really want, or the way we want to be. So this is what it is. And then quite a few Tibetan masters took this text as a basis. And then out of this came from Lama Tsongkhapa. This is what we're looking at. This is what is called the Lam Rim, the graduated path to enlightenment. And it's, we should be quite clear on this. It's a graduated path to enlightenment. So one is going step by step. And Gampopa called it the jewel ornament of liberation. So it also goes towards liberation. Or Patru Rinpoche, the words of my perfect teachers. So they're all very, very similar. And they all show us how to practice in order to change our mind from unenlightened to fully awakened. And so the big question is, do we understand that we have this incredible potential? It's like this is kind of what comes at the beginning of this journey, or of this path, because even now, when we do worldly activities, we kind of reflect, will it be worthwhile to spend the effort? Because attaining enlightenment, becoming a fully fledged Buddha with all the qualities, is not an easy task, and probably one lifetime will not be enough. Even though, again, we just now come to this, are there past lives, are there future lives? Of course, Buddhism says yes. And it would be very helpful when we do look at, especially Mahayana Buddhist texts, to at least accept that, we don't know, but to at least see the possibility as a kind of a little bit hypothesis, we say like this, Hypothek in German. So we see it as a possibility, so that we take it into consideration, that there are past and future lives, because otherwise this whole thing doesn't make that much sense. And you will put yourself, if you only believe in one lifetime, you will put yourself into a lot of stress and a lot of strain, that you have to do it all now and you have to succeed. We really have to, when we do Buddhist practice, it's so important that you're kind to yourself, that you're not pushing. And when you see that, instead of kind of feeling better, you start to feel worse and worse and worse, then it may be good to go back to the teachings and really look what they say. So it's all about loving kindness, it's all about compassion, and it's all about wisdom that we want to understand and we want to develop. So I think we can do, at the beginning, we can do short reflection. It's like, these questions that we have to ask ourselves. Like, one thing is, the first question is, well, what do I really want? Or what is preventing me from the person that I want to be? And, not kind of looking outside or at the text, but really looking inside and being very honest. What is it that, if I could just throw it away, what is it that I would just throw away? So that's the first question. Next question is, as I said, if we want to go on a journey, we need to see, is it possible to go there? Like, for example, Israel, I already had 2 plane tickets. I'm still in Switzerland. I'm still not in Israel. So, but they were kind of unforeseen things happening. And this is why I was assuming I could get to Israel, and this is why I got the plane tickets, but then some outer conditions changed. So over these, we don't really have, in worldly things, we don't really have that much control. But at the moment, I know it from the Jerusalem Post, that soon Israel will open. But the conditions are that I need like 2 vaccines plus the 3rd one, which Switzerland is not giving. So then I know that even if I want to go at the moment, it is not possible. Yeah. So, but the good thing is about this graduated path to enlightenment, it doesn't depend on governments. It doesn't depend on politics. It doesn't depend on banks. It doesn't depend on your friends, your family, your enemies, or whatever. It only depends on you, whether you will have the conditions to go there. But you have to check, do I have the conditions to go there? Yeah. So then if we check, what do I want? Is it possible to get it? Then we have to ask how. And then the next question will be, well, I have the conditions now in order to, when we come to the conclusion, I have the conditions now to attain full awakening. Will it last? So then we see that, well, don't know, in this life, maybe yes, I have a human mind, I have interest in the Dharma teachings, but what about next life? So then we have to think about what comes after death. And then what is determining what comes after death, and then it's karma. So some of you might have already recognized the topics of the Lam Rim, yeah? But the first one is really, really the most important one, is to have faith, maybe not so much faith, but trust in your own potential to become the person that you want to be. And then immediately after that, to make a promise not to push and to be kind to yourself. Being kind to ourselves doesn't mean that, we let the crazy mind do whatever it wants to do, but being kind to ourselves also means that sometimes we push a little bit, but only to the extent that we can bear it. And for that, unfortunately, there is no manual, because we all have different predispositions, and also some people, they take very hot showers, and if you would put a baby under that hot water, it would suffer terribly. So what all these methods are is to first understand the importance of love, compassion, kindness, and then to be able to apply this to ourselves also, not is like, it's always, everybody else first and then me. So it's, in Buddhism, is like all mother sentient beings, and especially in Mahayana Buddhism. Okay, so then is always the big question where to start. So I would say we start with that reflection, that you reflect first a little bit, so to be quite sure what you want. Because you see, if we want to get rid of our afflictions in like these 3 weekends that we have, or just in even just maybe 1 or 1 hour or so, then that's very unrealistic. And then, as I say, you just put yourself under stress, and you're not going to get that far with this. Yeah, but to really to see what do I want, and to understand, to also acknowledge that we have very deep sitting tendencies and we have habits, and that it's difficult to change them, so that you're not going to push too hard, because that's one of the biggest dangers in especially Mahayana Buddhism, where one does actually work for the benefit of others. And that one then already now with that unenlightened mind, you want to have the skills of a Buddha to know exactly what to do, that it will be beneficial. And then when we talk about beneficial, it's always beneficial in the long run. but we have a habit of thinking very short term. And we do that instinctively. We do that automatically, almost naturally. So then that's the first one, that we have to start to give ourselves really a lot of time. And also the confidence that, like with everything else, if we keep going and if we're not giving up, you know, I mean, a very simple example is if you have a spot on your clothes and the spot is very deep sitting, yeah? So first you wash and you wash, so it's a bit better, but it's still there. So if you want the spot to be gone totally, then you have to just keep washing. I mean, there's no other way that you can do that. So it's the same thing. The more you are determined, the more you know your potential, and the more you trust your potential, and the more you are determined that you really want to live it, the more you will have the courage and the patience to just continue, you know. And it's not this Buddhist path, it's not a path that just goes like up, 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 up. It's really a path that, you know, sometimes it seems to go really well, then some small thing happens, and then we think that we're even worse than we were before, and or we get bored and we get fed up. And this is why the consistency or the diligence to stay at it is really important. And I tell you, I'm quite happy that I have to give talks from time to time, because why I give these talks, or why I'm doing this, is to remind myself that this is a really good thing, what I want to do, and it takes a long time, but that I stay with it. And also, of course, being a nun and having, you know, tantric initiations, I have commitments that I have to do every day. And then it becomes a habit, and then it's not, you know, it's not duty anymore. And then slowly, slowly also one sees the progress, and then the joy comes in, and then it goes, even if it lasts a long time, it goes fairly smoothly. Okay, so we do this reflection, and I would like to do these Lam Rim things, weekends, in the same way as we do the Wednesday evening. For those who participate in the Wednesday evenings, I see some of them are there, that you have every right of speech. You can, you know, if you're not happy with what I'm saying, you say so. If you have questions, you can either put them in the chat or you just open your microphone and ask, okay? Because what people, I just keep, and because I say that at the beginning, then people keep their questions until the end. And then already I have problems to keep to the time. So then when the questions come at the end, which I want to answer, then of course, then we go over time. So I try to kind of keep to the time, so I don't keep you here in front of the screen for too long. Until now, is it more or less okay? Yeah, that we will do this reflection. I will guide you through it anyway, and then we continue. Okay. So with thank you for the thumb, Hila. So for the reflection. Oh, by the way, maybe I just had a message from Leora Price. Her daughter is just starting to give birth to her second child. So if you know Leora, and she's very emotional about it, of course. And so if we can spend, you know, in the reflection, when maybe, or in the meditations that we'll do, when negative things come up or whatever, or pain or whatever, then just open your heart and think, oh, somebody's daughter that I know very well, because I think everybody knows Leora Price, is giving birth, and then you just send some positive energy, and we wish them all the best, the mother and the baby. Is that okay? Because as many of you know from your own experience, that giving birth is not such an easy thing, you know. So it's one of the sufferings of having to come, of the unenlightened state, is having to come into this world in such a difficult way. Okay. So if you can sit with a straight back, but totally relaxed, this is so important. We want to recognize the state of our mind, but we don't want to push. So we need to have this balance between awake but relaxed. So try to express that with your body. And by relaxed, I don't mean, you know, like this. By relaxed, I just mean comfortable and not too relaxed, but awake. And in order to be able to notice what you're doing, is like, it's good to connect to your body. And if you need to adjust, then you can adjust. Sometimes we can just adjust with the mind, like feeling a tension somewhere, and you will feel that the moment you feel the tension, and it's just muscles that we're holding, sometimes in the face, sometimes, you know, we pull up the shoulders, sometimes the hands that are in our lap or on our knees are kind of pressing down, or wherever. Or sometimes also we pull the buttocks together and kind of, you know, make our thighs, the upper part of our legs, very hard in order to hold the back. But we don't need to do that. So you will notice the moment you notice it, the muscles relax. So it's very good to do a body scan. You can start at your feet. When you breathe in, you feel the sensations. When you breathe out, you totally open up. Become very spacious. Spacious is a very good, for me, is a very good word, because we're so tight sometimes. We don't give space. So by relaxing the body, we give space, and we become more aware of that we do have a lot of space. And if you feel that it's your clothes that are restricting you, then, you know, belts or pants or whatever, by all means, open the belt, open the buttons of your pants or whatever. We don't need to add without clothes to the tenseness of the body sometimes. Then you go to your legs. You just sweep up your legs with your awareness. Again, same thing. You're fully there with your awareness. You understand what's going on without making any comments. And as you breathe out, you think you're becoming more spacious, more open. Then you come further up to your buttocks, genital area, lower back, and abdomen. Then your chest and your upper back. Then your shoulders. Then with your attention, you sweep down your arms until your hands, like the tips of your fingers. And especially there, by breathing in, especially in the hands, we feel that there are sensations which are always there, but when the awareness is not there, we don't notice them. So same thing, by breathing in, you know what's going on, you're fully there, arms, hands, fingers. By breathing out, you become spacious and open. Then you come back up, neck and throat. Then your face. That's quite important because there we're holding little tensions very often, all the time. And because they're so small and we have become so used to them, we don't even notice them anymore. So it's especially the jaws, your cheeks, your eyes, the area around and behind your eyes, and your front. Especially with the eyes, try to make them very soft. Then just for a short time, you can come back to your breath, in breath, out breath. It's a very good way to make the mind calm. When it becomes calm, it will become clear. So don't force anything, just, the decision to stay on the breath, to recognize in breath for in breath, out breath for out breath. Nothing complicated. And to relax into it and to know that I can do this. This is not difficult. The mind moves away, very simply, just bring it back. But to recognize in breath for in breath, out breath for out breath. This is, by gosh, not anything complicated. And by doing this, we discover the pleasant sensation of doing the right thing. Or the pleasant sensation of being in direct contact with something, knowing something directly, meaning the breath. Already that gives us space, calmness, and with time, clarity. So you find out what works best for you, either, the little pressure at the tip of your nose, or the rising and falling of your abdomen, or the whole cycle. Don't jump around, but just look where it is easiest for you to stay on the breath. So this is the nice thing about Buddhism. You always check yourself, not necessarily what is easiest, but what works best. So for what works best, we have to clearly recognize what we want. And this is up to you. This nobody can tell you. The text, they make suggestions and we can see whether we're in accord with them, whether we're happy hearing it. So, but now from your side, maybe forget about the texts and really deeply listen inside. What kind of person would I like to be, and what is preventing me from being that person? But before you go into what is preventing me, make a promise to yourself to be kind, not to push, not to judge, just to look. So with a compassionate attitude, we look at our hindrances for being the person that we would like to be. Understanding that they make me suffer. They make me unhappy. These hindrances are painful. And then next step would be, do I have the confidence that I have the potential to eliminate these hindrances? Or do I totally identify with them and think, no, this is me? Or am I even afraid to let them go and to eliminate them? Again, try to be just the observer. Maybe if a voice comes up that says, well, I'm no good, I always fail, like this, then think about your successes. See that, yes, okay, I fail many times, but not always. Failure on the spiritual path is kind of normal, that we're not just having successes, but the only failure is when you give it up completely. And I always fail is definitely not true. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to put on the computer or your tablet or your mobile phone. You have successfully logged in. So we said we want to develop love and compassion. So then think about somebody that you truly love. Of course, for us it's attached love, but it's okay. Can be a child, can be a friend, maybe not somebody that you're sexually attracted to. But somebody that sees you, somebody that values you, somebody that understands you, hears you. And just look what's happening in your heart, in your mind, in your chest. Usually these emotions we feel them in the body. So this is where we have to go with our attention. Don't stay up in the head. Don't stay in the brain. The brain doesn't really feel anything. Or we can't detect any sensations changing in the brain. This only machines can do when, these areas are lightening up. When you just thinking about this person, what does it do to you? And we see the attitude we have towards this person. There's no wish to harm at all. I'm not saying all the time. It's just when we recognize the affection towards us from the other person that we think like this. But just right now, when you think about that person who truly values you, who you feel, you know, they like to spend time with you. They listen to you when you say something. They even try to help and support when you're not well. Somebody like this. I'm sure we all have somebody like this. Maybe not right now, present, but in the past. And then we can take, you know, that kind of sensation of open heart, which is loving kindness, that kind of sensation of, oh, if I can do to help you, I would gladly do, compassion. So we could have a wish, may I have this kind of attitude towards everybody that I come in contact with. See what happens then. Or you can think about your values that you have. Love and compassion we already talked about. But like values like generosity, ethical conduct, patience, diligence, wisdom, concentration. So when we view them as something good and valuable, you see, for us, these things are not just words. Sometimes we are able to live these values. So we think, this is my potential. But at the moment, I'm not able to live them spontaneously, uninterruptedly, and effortlessly. Not all the time, just sometimes. So now from your side, before we then look at the precious human rebirth, check, do I have the conditions to nourish these values that I have spontaneously, to develop them, to make them grow? And if if your voice is, oh no, it's a lot lacking, then you go, okay, what is lacking? Conditions we are able to create also. Some. And very often when we think, oh no, I don't have the right conditions, it's internal conditions. It's not so much outside conditions. There are some, I do agree. And then, to finish the reflection with a happy mind. Kind of, we know what we want. We know what kind of values we would like to nourish and to develop. And to be a little bit excited and joyful that there are very precise methods how to do that. That we have enough trust, we have enough faith, or at least we have enough interest to listen to these methods, which not everybody has, you see. So we develop this appreciation towards ourselves that we do take the time, because you're all very busy, to kind of sit in front of a TV screen in order to learn about these methods. and then to be willing, even though sometimes they're a bit painful, to apply them. Gosh, isn't that wonderful? Yes, it will take a long time. Yes, it will not be easy. Probably, as the Buddha says, the most difficult task will be to subdue our crazy mind. But now, you know, the last question we have to check ourselves, is it worthwhile? And so for those of you who have been practicing since quite a while, I think the answer spontaneously comes, definitely. If you look at your present situation without any Dharma knowledge, how would you manage? And this is not for judging, but when we look at other people who have no Dharma knowledge, no trust, no faith in their own potential, no methods how to transform problems, when outside nothing can be done. You know, we're not looking them in a judging way, but more in a compassionate way. And then again, towards ourselves, this appreciation. Ah, I am so fortunate. Try to experience and feel that gratitude towards yourself. Kind of well done. Right now and all the times before, I gave up running after something that doesn't really give me what I want. And I was listening, reflecting, and practicing methods that will enable me to live my values effortlessly, spontaneously, and continuously. How does that gratitude feel? Okay, so we can end the reflection. And then maybe we can start with the text. So the Lam Rim, you know, there is long ones, middle ones, short ones. So what we'll take as a basis, which I think you were able to download probably from the website, but I can also maybe put it in the chat. So it's kind of, it's the outlines of the Lam Rim. And at the end of this, then there is this, well, sometimes we call it prayer, but it's not really a prayer. It's more again, it's kind of step by step reminding us why we are doing this. So before we start, you can see the screen, yeah? So before we start, we kind of can just recite it for, you know, auspiciousness sake. So some of you are very familiar with this, some of you are not. So, but it shows us in a short way the steps, and then of course, if you study Fridays or now Thursdays with Venerable Karzom, and many of you have studied Lam Rim, then you know that it's much more elaborate than this. This is just, you know, this is just the outlines. So we can go through it slowly. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and venerable Guru. Correct devotion to him is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon him with great respect. We will be talking about this a little bit in the course. But maybe just now, I know that some of you have gurus. So just think about that person. And again, check in your heart what happens. When you think about His Holiness the Dalai Lama, just imagine hearing his voice or hearing him laugh or hearing him teach. What happens? So we need living beings as inspiration. This is why it's the root of the path. We need, because what Buddhism is trying to teach us, that we can have a state where we're totally free from any unwholesome, unhelpful emotion. It is so outrageous because, these emotions have become so much part of us. And that if we don't have anybody living it, anybody as an example, I mean, I don't know where I would take the confidence from that I can do this. If I wouldn't have my teachers and my guru who are, first of all, living it, and secondly, always giving me the right instructions to be able to continue when I was stuck. So this is why it is said. It's, when it talks about devotion, it doesn't mean you become a slave of them, but it means, in a way, devotion, respect means you follow their advice happily, even though it's difficult. Because what the gurus are there for is to help us stretch our borders, because otherwise we always settle for the most easy thing. And I think you know that. And also they do, when they teach these things and we listen, and then it just reminds us again and again and again and again what we really want. And probably, I don't know, but when I listen to somebody and I respect and I like very much, it has much bigger effect on me than when I read a book. So I don't know how it is with you, but definitely I'm happy that there's living gurus, not just books. So, okay, so then understanding the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is greatly meaningful and is difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. We will, after the break, we will look at this a little bit more closer. So again, it's like a little bit what we did in the reflection. Do I have the conditions that I need in order to practice? If you don't have them, like if I want to come to Israel without having the certificate that I had 3 vaccines, then there's no point trying to come to Israel. I will not be able to enter. So there's outer conditions, there's inner conditions, what exactly they are, we'll look at after the break. Then next one is the question, okay, when we notice, definitely the inner conditions I have, definitely the outer conditions now with the Zoom, I also have, because we get so many teachings. Somebody says, oh no, I don't have access to teachings. It's too expensive. I can't go there. I have kids. I have to look after them. Of course you can't, maybe you're not able to follow a whole teaching, but you can just follow from time to time. Yeah, because we're all always saying more or less the same things. So if you once have the structure of how to practice, this is why to know the structure is very important, because then you know exactly where to put the teaching and you're not making kind of mix up. So then next question is, like, when we are very happy that we have the conditions, next question is, will these conditions last? Well, definitely they will not, because at one point we have to leave this body. Where we will be reborn, no idea. So then the next one is to remind ourselves, if we want to practice, we need to practice now. This life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. Okay, so we will look at karma, I think, this afternoon, and how to meditate on death and impermanence after the break. Then finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. So we need to be maybe, firm and definite conviction that what happens to us is like, it's not because the Buddhas want, or God or whatever wants to punish us, but it's because we have created potentials so that what happens to us is happening to us, and they can be wholesome or unwholesome. So then the unwholesome ones, they create something that we don't want, and the wholesome ones, they create something that we're quite happy with. So this is the conviction that we are shaping and creating our own future. So then when we see that, then let me be careful and to abandon the negativities. Also, this afternoon, we go into the 10 negative actions, so we know what we should abandon and what we should enhance. So basically, practicing Buddhism, this is the main task, is to abandon things that lead to suffering and to enhance and nourish actions and things that lead to well-being and happiness. So now we come to the next here, which is already, what is well-being? What is happiness? Is it samsaric pleasures who always end? So seeking samsaric pleasures is the door to all suffering. They are uncertain and cannot be relied upon. This we do this we do next weekend, sorry. So it doesn't mean you should not have pleasures. The Buddha doesn't say, oh, pleasures are bad, they are sinful or something like that. Anyway, the word sin doesn't really exist in Buddhism. So, but it's wholesome actions or helpful actions or attitudes, or what else do they need? Virtuous. And then the opposite is unvirtuous, unwholesome, unhelpful actions and attitudes. And so why is it wholesome? Not because it pleases the Buddha or somebody else. It is wholesome because it gives you what you want, meaning a state which is free from suffering. So this is why. So seeking the samsaric pleasures, that's, it's seeking them, that is the unwholesomeness, that we invest our resources, our time, our energy just in having pleasures. And as I tell you, especially here in Switzerland, especially in the area where I am now, because it's a holiday area, mountain area, people who come to visit, that's what they do. They invest their resources, their energy, and their money in these things. And somebody sent me a small clip yesterday. He lives a bit more up the mountain from where I am. And it was a clip where somebody was kind of balancing on a rope, which is about 100 meters high. Of course, he was attached to the rope, but still, it's like, can you imagine how much energy and time you have to invest in that to be able to do that? It's like, yeah. But yeah, for him, the one who is doing it, and of course it's great skill. I wouldn't be able to do that. And I don't want to say this is bad. It is just that it doesn't really need that far, because, are you creating positive karma by doing that? What do? You develop your balance and your concentration. So if you can bring that balance into your mind states when you're off the rope, so of course, then it's a very good practice. But if it's just to have like body balance, then what's the point? I'm the right one to talk about this, because I used to do a lot of sports and mountain climbing and all this. I tell you, I'm really happy I don't have to do this anymore, that I lost interest, because it's becoming also more and more expensive and more not so pleasant, because more and more people are doing this, also with the mountain bikes here, these cross-country bikes is like, wow, it's amazing. Anyway, so recognizing the shortcomings of seeking samsaric pleasures, this also, because that's, our attitude, our automatic pilot is definitely going in that direction. So recognizing the shortcomings of this, please bless me to generate a strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Not liberation from pleasures, but liberation from attachment or desire for them. Then peace will come. Yeah. I don't know if anybody when we say, what do I really want? What do I really, what kind of person do I want to be? Did anybody think about, I want to be peaceful? Would that be nice, to be peaceful? What does it mean to be peaceful? Because maybe we should exchange the word happiness for peaceful or something like that. Because when I say peaceful, and I am very peaceful, it has so much more than just happiness. Happiness is definitely included in it. But can we use the chat? What does it mean for you to be peaceful? You know, don't think you can just listen to me the 3 weekends. You also have to work a little bit here. Or you can say also if it's easier. I don't mind, either one. Leora is kind of coming forward. Thank you, Leora.
Content, spacious mind, open
Oh, wait,
heart.
I have to kind of make that a bit louder here. Yeah, go ahead.
Content, spacious mind, open heart.
Okay. These are good things, isn't it? Yeah, Adriana.
To be like at peace with myself, like to feel comfortable with myself, with my mind and body.
Is it easy to be peaceful for us, unenlightened beings? It's very difficult, isn't it? I mean, you know, the other day, I think I lost a cloth to clean the windows. I tell you, I had tensions about this. And I thought, like, what the heck are you doing? But I wasn't able to let go of it for quite a while now. This is why talking about it and confessing it is really good, because otherwise all these tensions, we hold them, we keep them, we're not talking about them, and then they can't dissolve. And we can't see how ridiculous that we are, that sometimes we destroy our peace of mind with these little things, you know. I'm just talking about me. I don't know how it is with you also. So it's definitely a big goal. Yes, Yanai.
To me, it's like I think of Thich Nhat Hanh's the calm person in the boat, like when things just in turmoil, so you know how to deal with them, and you're free to choose your behavior.
Exactly. That's a good one. You're free to choose your behavior. And if we're free to choose our behavior, we behave totally differently. Yeah, because then the mind is so clear that we see, you know, shouting at the person now is not helpful. Or we see, but with an open heart, now I have to raise my voice. Yeah, but it doesn't come uncontrolled. Usually when we raise our voice, it doesn't come controlled. It's totally uncontrolled. It comes as a habit. Free to choose our reaction. This is very good. And the good thing about being peaceful is that you have so much effect on other people. It really affects people, whether we're totally agitated. And, you know, if you are around somebody who is always agitated, you have to be pretty realized not to be affected by it. But it's so difficult. Yeah. And it's the same for feeling peaceful then, you know. Okay. Anybody else would like to say something? Otherwise, we continue with the. Right. Don't forget, yeah, you can open your microphone anytime and share, because this is what Sangha is all about. You know, Sangha, and I see myself as a Sangha member, not as a teacher, by the way, just one of you guys also. Like, we're all the same, you know, we all suffer from the same things. I'm not realized, and I can just talk about this, but this is just about it. Yeah, I do make some short progress, like seeing that, getting upset about losing a rag to clean the windows, because it's the perfect one. You see, this is the thing, and it cannot be found anywhere. So that's why, you know, it's so special. Yeah, this is the whole thing. We make everything so special, you know, and put so much attention in it. So please bless me to generate a strong wish for the bliss of liberation, the liberation to be free from being under the control of these afflictions. Yeah, to have the choice. Oh, such a nice word, Yanai. To have the choice, to have the choice to be able, how I want to react. Because we do have it. This is the thing. The more mindful we are, we would have that choice. Then, led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. It doesn't arise just like that out of the blue. I'm afraid we have to train it again and again and again. The root of the teachings is keeping the pratimoksha vows. So taking vows will help us to be, to develop, to keep on the track and to develop mindfulness, alertness, and great caution. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. So this is, after each verse, it kind of, we're asking for blessings. So we can also say, so what is these blessings? Like blessings means we are being touched by the words of the Guru. That is the blessing. It has an effect on us. We're not kind of trying to contradict it all the time, even though in, Buddhism is not a vehicle where you just blindly believe what is being said because many people practice it and because you have devotion for the Guru, and whatever the Guru says, you go, yeah, this is true. This is why discussion is so important, that you can voice your doubts and you can say you things that you're not happy with. So as the Buddha said, do not believe me just for my words, but take them like a goldsmith would, what was it? Rub them, cut them, burn them, I think like this. So if we want to see in the teachings that it's gold, then it's like when we want to find gold in the earth. First, we have to, we find something, it's a nugget maybe, we think it's a nugget and we start to rub, and then maybe it starts to show that it's gold, but then we still have to cut it. Have people bite on how they, in ancient times, they were trying to see whether it's gold or not. You bite on it, and then if it's kind of a bit soft, then it's gold. And then at the end you have to burn it. Burn it in, you have to melt it. So it's a bit like this. So this is why with the teachings we have to do the same thing. We have to listen to it. We have to reflect on it, and you can really bring in your own opinion. I think it is like this. Is my opinion better, or my attitude or my view better than the Buddha's view? If it is better, if you're convinced that it's much better than the Buddha's view, and then again the question comes, but for what? In order to attain this freedom from being under the control of negative emotions. That is what the Buddha was teaching us. He wasn't teaching us how to be a good businessman or how to be very beautiful and all this. His teachings are about this, how to have peace of mind, that you always can choose how you react. So it's good to take that in, when we hear this, don't believe anything. So usually when people listen to the teachings and they come with this argument, they're not happy with rebirth, they're not happy with karma and all this. And then they come, oh, but the Buddha said I shouldn't believe anything. But he didn't stop there. He said, don't believe anything just like this, but examine it, try it out. And if it doesn't work, then of course, then it's not valid. Yeah, so that's a bit tricky. Be careful when we kind of go, oh, I don't believe this, but also don't believe anything. So we need most of the things in Buddhism, actually, I think you can check. You can check with our own kind of limited intelligence or wisdom. We can check, yeah, this makes sense. This is true. Especially when we come to the Four Noble Truths. Yeah, like the first noble truth, like the first teaching of the Buddha. So actually, before he expounded on these Four Noble Truths, he said, your lifestyle should not be totally hedonistic, should not be, only running after pleasures, but it should also not be too ascetic, where you are completely depriving yourself and no hygiene, and you only practice and you only sit and your body gets more and more sick and all this. So it should be free from these two extremes. Yeah. Oh, so by the way, I don't have to cast anymore. Can you see? Honi was asking me to do that. So the fingers I can move. This one I cannot do so much, but this I can go quite well. And this is much more important to me. You know why? For the prostrations. Yeah, this movement here like this, I don't need so much, but this one I need. So that I'm able to go like this, I'm very happy. So it's good.
It's good
You too.
It's good for cleaning the windows.
To clean the window. Clean the windows, I can with the right hand. This is okay. But for the prostrations, I need both hands. So like that. Yeah. So there you go. As Adriana says, you know, we all have priorities. We all see what is useful. So if your priority is to become a very good businessman and to cheat everybody, you know, Buddhism is not going to get you there. If your priority is to know your values and to believe in that potential, what can we lose if we start to believe in our potential? You know, this is the thing. To know your values, to start to believe in your potential, and then to take the methods of the Buddha, which are many, 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 and some of them are contradicting. So again, we need to know what to apply. And then we will definitely get where we want. So that's how we started. You know, don't be too just pleasure, but also don't be too strict. So the middle way. So don't forget that. He also said, don't be too strict with yourself. And so, and then when he started with there is suffering, he didn't say you suffer, but he said there is suffering. And, you know, we can exchange the word for with our unenlightened mind. Of course, we have a lot of joys and we have a lot of pleasures. That is true. I don't deny it, because we have very good conditions, like we have very good karma that is ripening at the moment. But also, it is very easy to get frustrated, and it's very easy to be stressed, isn't it? Yes or no? So that's what he meant. We want peace of mind, yet it is very, very easy to be stressed, yeah, and frustrated. There's a lot of it, and you know, things that we don't want. So we're in despair, and we are. Anyway, we'll go into that next weekend. What he meant by this, there is suffering. So the next one, he was giving us the causes, because if suffering just arises without causes, then there's no need to talk about this. Then we just have to endure, and that's it. But suffering has causes, and this is why it can end. And now the big question is, do we believe that we can end these causes? And the causes are, first of all, wrong views about thinking that whatever I see is the way that it appears to me, and then I react towards it. And not having the intelligence to see what is a helpful reaction, what is an unhelpful reaction, and like this we create more negative karma. Yeah, that I think I'm the center of the universe, also very spontaneously, very naturally, very effortlessly. This I have, this kind of attitude, which is okay, by the way. Again, don't go into the thing that you have to neglect yourself. This many people think that this is what Buddhism says, and they even try to do this. You know, nothing for me, but everything for all others. As long as we're not realized, we cannot do this. But we can apply it to the attitude of a mother or a father. You know, of course, they're, you know, before they had the children, they were just as egocentric as everybody else. You know, I mean, some more and some less. But the moment that they had this attitude of, I want to be well, I want to be happy and all this. But when the children are born, that ego that says that expands, and the children are included in that attitude. They also have to be happy. They also have to be well. And it comes very spontaneously and effortlessly, because you think these aren't my children. You think. But how do you know? Did anybody make a DNA test? You know, they could have been exchanged in the hospital, and then there were it was too difficult to say, or too scandalous, like, oh, no, we can't admit it. We just put it under the carpet. Who knows? We don't know. Yeah. But anyway, people say, oh, no, I will recognize my own child. I'm not sure if we do. It's attitude. You know, the moment you label this little lump of flesh, which it is, screaming like a little worm, the moment, and very sweet, by the way, but the sweetness is not really coming from the lump of flesh. The sweetness is coming from your open heart and loving mind, and especially the loving mind, my child. So effortlessly there, we're able to include another being into our concern for happiness. So what we do in Buddhism is, yes, me also, I have to be well, because otherwise no way I can practice or, you know, then be of benefit to other people. Me, yes, also, but then the purpose of me being well is in order to expand that ego so that finally it can include all sentient beings. So that's the Mahayana vehicle. Not just my own self-liberation, but I want to be liberated from negative emotions in order to then lead all sentient beings to that state. Yeah. So the causes for our not being liberated, for our suffering, is wrong views, attachment, aversion, and the whole rest that we call unwholesome emotions. Again, we do that next, then the weekend after. So these first two noble truths, I think we can easily recognize, especially if we look, that we see that if we act out of negative emotions, we don't even have to think about karma. It is not helpful to create peace of mind in my mind and in the minds of others. It's not helpful to create happiness. We can see that this whole mess in the world is about the wrong view that my happiness is more important. I need to have comfort. I destroy the Mother Earth because of my craving for comfort or money or gain or profit or whatever, but I don't care. The main thing is that I have profit. This is the attitude, and we've gone so far that it's difficult to come back. I mean, it's so frustrating also. You know, everybody sees it. Everybody sees what we're doing. Everybody's doing it, me included. You know, maybe a little bit less than other people because I don't eat meat and I separate my garbage and blah, blah, blah. And this, but come on, you know, I still fly to Israel or buy things that are not 100% ecological or whatever. I try, at least I try. And then, of course, you know, because I try, it's good enough. So we shouldn't be kind of just criticizing other people because I am the goody one who is doing all the things in the right way. We just continue to do things in the way we think is right. And then just think, okay, I'm doing my share and more I can't do without getting angry at these others. But we can see that this is the cause, you know, it's ignorance of kind of the ignorance of seeing something, but not wanting to recognize it. And then, of course, out of that, attachment and anger arises, and we create karma. And so we're kept in this cycle of being, whether we want or not, of being reborn again and again and again and again. Okay, so these first two noble truths are, I think, easy to recognize, at least intellectually. When I say, I don't say realize. If we would have realized them, all of us, we would be already enlightened. This is why we have to repeat it again and again and again and again, to really feel the dukkha, to feel this unsatisfactoriness of not being able to be free of having a choice. Yeah. To again and again and again, you know, when something comes up without guilt, without shame. By the way, nowhere in the Buddhist teachings it says you should feel guilty or you should be ashamed. You can leave this outside. And nowhere does the Buddha say, oh, you hear this one time and then you have to be perfect. No, it's like everybody says this will take a long time. So then when we realize it, we're surprised that it's difficult and it will take a long time. Okay, so the third noble truth, this is a little bit more difficult to at least intellectually grasp. So this is where we need trust. But when we see that the first noble truth, we can, with our limited intelligence, we can see that, oh, wow, this is true. You know, there is suffering. And these are the causes for the suffering. Then the third one, the cessations of suffering, we need some trust. Yeah. And then we need the living masters like His Holiness Dalai Lama, my master Kitsendra Rinpoche, where I can see, you know, they suffered so much. Their land's been taken away. They've been tortured. They've been in prison. They had to leave their country. Absolutely no anger and hate towards the Chinese. Yeah, like they really living what they're teaching and behaving in a very beneficial way. Like they bring these teachings to the whole world instead of sitting there and feeling sorry for themselves. Oh, now we're refugees, there's nothing we can do. What they're doing, they're sharing their teachings. So it's like, yeah. So cessation is a tough one. Anybody, you know, maybe from the more, no, anybody who is there, when you think about cessations, you know, it's possible to be able to live our values. It's possible to be free. What comes up? I mean, how do you react to this third noble truth? Do you believe it? Do we have trust that this is possible? At least intellectually? Yeah, Yana is nodding. Okay.
I think for me, then there is this. I want to believe in it, and then there's like this thoughts that immediately come up with examples in which I didn't manage to live with my values, or like did mistakes that I'm that I don't like, and so here you can't.
Yeah, but you know, they talk about cessations will last a long time, so of course we want to have it immediately. I think the best argument that I've heard, I think it was from Chadu Rinpoche, or maybe from Geshe Tashi, I can't remember. You know, we hear little things that stay the whole time. And most of it I forget, but then there's little things I really remember. So he said, because you can recognize that you can decrease your anger, slowly, steadily, you know, but we see that it does decrease. It means you can also eliminate it completely. This I thought, like, wow, yeah, it's true. You know, it's such a simple argument, but it's true. And this helped, for me, it was very helpful to hear that. And then, of course, you know, you can exchange ignorance or wrong views with right views. Of course, you can exchange that. It takes a long time. And if you studied Lorik, you know, from wrong views to doubt, then to have right assumptions, and then to have inferential cognition, and then to have a direct cognition, wow, it takes a long time. Yeah, we have to go through these steps, whether we want or not. But there we don't have choice. If we want to be happy, if we want to be free to have a choice, we don't have the choice of, okay, I do this method or I don't do them. This we don't have. It's not going to come like this overnight. Yeah. And so, but we can nourish that trust. But when we see that, you know, also put attention, like at the end of the reflection, we put attention to open heart and gratitude, to also be mindful of those attitudes or emotions that we have, because that's what they say in neuroscience now. The longer you stay with the positive mind, with awareness, the more these neurons, they fire with each other, and then they will wire. Yeah. Do we trust this? Because science says it. Because Jacquette is nodding. So good thing that science is saying that. Yeah. So then we have an explanation why we can change habits, why we can change attitudes, and why sometimes it's very difficult, because the wiring between these neurons in our brain is very, very, very strong with the negative attitudes. So then if they're very strong, that means also we need more time. Yeah. So the first of these Four Noble Truths, of course, is the path. So then there's many paths. You know, you have the Eightfold Noble Path, then you have the 5 paths, and you have like the Tantric path, you have the I don't want to call it Hinayana path, you have the Theravadin path. So His Holiness calls it like you have to pass from the Pali tradition, which works for your own self-liberation, and which is good, because then the world is rid of you. You know, I mean, one mind less who gets reincarnated again and again and again. It's already a good thing, I'll tell you. So never denigrate these people and say, oh, look at them, you know, I'm Mahayana, I work for the benefit of all sentient beings. Please don't. The Buddha taught both vehicles, so both vehicles are legal. So that's absolutely fine. Yeah, so there is the Pali tradition path, there is the Sanskrit Bodhisattva path, and then there is also the Tantric path. So there's different paths. So path is there, actually it eliminates hindrances for cessation. This is what the path is for. And cessation of what? Cessation of suffering and the causes of suffering. Yeah, because we want to cease both. So this is what we want to abandon. suffering and the causes of suffering, and this is what we want to enhance, is like we want to practice the path so that we can actualize cessations. And there's many, many different ways. So again, from your side, you find out what works best for you. Not necessarily, oh, but I like this teacher. Yeah. So this is exactly like, you should not like the Dharma because you like the teacher, because you like the Dharma because it works for you. You know, we have people who started with the Sanskrit vehicle, and then all of a sudden they discovered Sharon Salzberg and Jack Kornfield and on this, and they'd say, well, I feel so much more at home there. And that's fine. So then you practice there is really important, you know, because they say, oh, the whole thing with the Gelux is too intellectual and it's too much studying, it's too much learning. Some people enjoy it, some people like it, some other people, it just, you know, they just get stuck in it and they get more and more full. I did, after the first Mahayana course, I did a Christopher Titmuss course, which is a Pali tradition, and then I didn't feel at home there. Yeah, so it's not I'm better than others. It's just that we have different predispositions. And this is what I find so nice about Buddhism, that you know what you want, and then you practice what works best. Don't forget, if you want to say something, you can. Yeah? Somebody kind of.
As for your question,
Yeah.
What comes to mind when I hear cessation? Do I believe it? So that my answer would be definitely, because first, as you mentioned, when I practice it, I see that it works slowly, but it works. And secondly, I can see, I have living examples when I watch my teachers.
Yeah.
So it definitely works.
Yeah,
And what
right.
does it do to me? It gives motivation to walk the path.
Exactly.
So
yeah, and we're not giving up quickly. You see, it's also when you, if you have short-lived goals, then we're still not where we really want to be. And then, you know, we say, okay, that's good enough, and then that's it. But then we don't know what happens next life. So I think this is happening a little bit with in the COVID situation, because, you know, many people have been coming to the center, and they enjoyed the Sangha and the tea and the cookies and the discussions and all this. But then the COVID came, so they couldn't come to the center anymore. And then all of a sudden, yes, some participate on Zoom, some didn't do anything, but they start to see also, but, oh, I have these methods, I can practice them by myself, you know? And so they kind of lost a little bit the habit of taking the time to come every whatever, you know, Thursday evening or something like that. So I don't know how it is in Israel, but the centers here in Europe, they have big problem for the people coming back, even though they're open again, because Zoom is very convenient. But I really tell you, it makes so much difference. It's such a big difference whether you go personally, if you can. Of course, it's more hassle because there's maybe, you know, there's traffic jams, and you have to give money to, or you don't have to give money with the Dharma Friends because it's all dana, but you know that you should, because otherwise they cannot pay the Yechiam or Nesamim or wherever they are. It's a hassle, and you know, you have to go back home and all this, but it does make a big difference. But I think this is, you know, many people discovered, oh, I can apply these methods, it works. I don't need the Dharma anymore. I don't need the Sangha anymore. I don't need the direct Sangha anymore. And I think that's quite a bit of a danger, actually, because we also need the Sangha, so we see that we still rub on each other. And yes, I think it was Tetsuma who said, you know, if you want to have smooth stones, you need sandpaper. So then, or two stones that rub against each other, then they will become very smooth. So we need the Sangha, even if they would then sometimes, you know, there's conflict. Since quite a while, since 6 weeks now, I'm living alone. I had not even one moment of anger. Why? Because the people that I have contact with, I don't know them so well. So why should I get angry? And also, I don't have that much contact with other people. And so it's like, you know? So there's nothing to rub on, so there's nothing to practice. And then I can go out into the world again, meeting people, coming to Israel or whatever, and thinking that I'm realized, and then boom, I get angry at the airport because they don't let me in or something like that, you know? So it's like, when we live alone and things are going well and easy, we could think that we are realized, but then we're not. So that's a bit the danger. So then we need living examples that this is important to do. So there's a center nearby, which is an FBMT center also that I teach sometimes nearby. I mean, it takes me an hour with public transport to get there and then to come back home again. But yesterday I was there. And of course, again, you know, if the three of us would not have gone because we went with a car, the person who was organizing it, he would have been alone. And then the thing is, you know, these centers close because there's no financial support because they have to pay the rent. And also, you know, people get easily discouraged when there's not many people participating, because that seems to be the big thing. How many people were there? It's not important, you know, it's not important. But it's like, so you as Dharma practitioners now, you know, you have a little bit of a responsibility that the Dharma continues, that by not just supporting the centers financially, because the center in Bern, we have enough finances, but there's people are not really coming. So they're actually thinking whether they should close down the physical center and just do Zoom events. And I would think that would be a real shame. What's your view on this? You're a Dharma practitioners there. Would you be happy just to with the Zoom?
For me personally, the Zoom is more difficult, because when there was a face-to-face retreat, I had to clear my schedule, and then I would go and I would be there. And then I'm committed. And with the Zoom, it's much, a little something comes up, so you put it aside and I'm not going. And it's much harder, actually.
Okay. Okay, good. So see, there's a bit this tendency, as it says in the prayer here, when it talks about seeing the shortcomings of it, you know, when we talk about pleasures, we have a tendency to look, oh, what is more easy and what is pleasurable. We don't really look at the long-term benefits of the whole thing. And where was it? Here. The samsaric pleasures, recognizing the shortcomings, you know, the shortcomings of having Zoom, which is very easy. And of course, it's, you know, you don't have to give so much money, and you're home, you can avoid the whole thing. It's like, yeah, but the shortcomings is, as Yanai says, you're not so concentrated. All you have to do, you can do your dishes and clean your windows. You just have to close the camera. And so it's like, and there is no contact, there's no direct contact. And this is why I always encourage people that we discuss, you know, how far we get into text is not, for me, is not so important, because there's so many good teachers who teach you in a very excellent way about these texts. But I think it's really important that also on the Zoom we discuss. Yeah, so, I mean, that's my view. So that we have the connection, and we discuss the same way we would discuss, you know, over a cup of tea. This is why I told you this morning that Ayala, the daughter of Leora, is giving birth right now. So that we get, you know, we feel that connection that we have to the Sangha. Anyway, so in order to kind of finish a little bit here, to have the break at when? In 15 minutes. I think we can get there. Just as I've fallen into the sea of samsara, so of all mother migratory beings, please bless me to see this, train in supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. So here now we make the next step, not just myself being liberated from samsara, but I receive a lot of kindness from others. I'm very dependent on others. Maybe that's a better argument, you know, I depend on others. If somebody is kind to us, well, we like it and we feel warm in the heart and this and that. But yeah, we're not really changing our behavior that much. But if we see that we're depending on somebody, then that helps us to change our behavior. So we totally depend on the mother, first to give us birth, to give us a body, and then to keep us alive. This is why we train that everybody has been a mother. This we do now how it is. This we do the next weekend, okay? So this weekend is lower scope and middle scope, and or level, let's say level. And then next weekend is the bodhicitta level, and then the third weekend we do contemplations on the whole thing. So then it continues by saying, even if I develop only bodhicitta, but I don't practice the 3 types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. So it means already training in, you know, in the 6 perfections, or here it's in the first 4 perfections, although here it says the 3 types of morality. Sometimes it's, you know, one wonders what exactly it means. Again, we talk about this when we talk about bodhicitta. So then once I have pacified distractions to wrong objects and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, the soul about emptiness, please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified paths of calm abiding and special insight. It's perfection 5 and 6, concentration, and then a direct insight into how things actually exist. And maybe this is a good thing that we already can mention it now. In Buddhism, one always talks about 2 levels of existence, which are one entity, but not the same thing. And this is something that you have to understand, because otherwise you don't recognize, when does it talk about emptiness? When does it talk about dependent arising? Or when does it talk about ultimate reality? And when does it talk about conventional reality? So it's really important to make that distinction, because otherwise you fall into nihilism, that, oh yeah, great, everything is empty, so nothing is of any importance. Always the question that comes when people hear about emptiness, and it's a very good question, and it's an important question, and it's a very natural question. And they say, well, if everything is empty, why should I practice compassion? That means, you know, we don't understand when we ask this question, and it's a very good question and it needs to be asked, but it means that then we think that these 2 levels of existence can exist separate from each other, but they cannot. They are one entity. Without emptiness, you have no conventional existence, and without conventional existence, you will not have emptiness. What would things be empty of if there's no conventional existence? I'm going into very dangerous ground here if I give you these arguments, because there's Leora Kennett listening, where she knows all the debate there. So it's good to correct me, Leora, yeah, if I say something kind of a bit stupid. The good thing is also, nothing is absolutely true except for emptiness, and that one has no function. And nothing is absolutely wrong. So this is always, you know, there's always a yes, but. So also the yes, buts in Buddhism are important, and they're good to have, but it's good to start to create a yes, but that is helpful to lead us to the state we want to go, and not to kind of hinder us. When we go like, you know, it can be the same words, but totally different attitude. When we go like, oh yes, but it's possible, but oh, this is so difficult. Yeah, it totally blocks us. But when we say, oh yeah, this is possible, but it will be very difficult. When we say it with that attitude, we have the stamina to continue, understanding that this is a difficult task. If we approach it with the feeling that, oh, you know, intellectually I can understand, so therefore it should be easy to transform the mind, then we will give up very, very quickly, because we thought it was empty. And then when we meet the difficulties, it becomes too difficult. Then we give up. Okay, so then it's like, it's this emptiness thing. So we will go probably until here, yeah, with the Lam Rim teachings, because what comes next is the 3rd vehicle, which is the Tantric vehicle. So anyway, in order to, if you're totally new, then it's good to have a good understanding of renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness before you start with doing tantric practices. Tantra has nothing to do with sex or like ordinary sex and things like that. It's the union. It's kind of to bring forward the union of bliss and emptiness, like conventional reality, ultimate reality, which then expresses itself as an understanding of emptiness, which then produces total absolute bliss. So that is what is the mind of a Buddha. But we can still read these few verses at the end. So having become a pure vessel by training in the general path. So that's the general path, is the sutra path. And the bodhisattva path, please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments is keeping pure vows and samaya. So these are the tantric vows, okay? As I have become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Now, very often people think, oh, I can't keep the vows, I will not take them. But then every teacher says, but you need to take them to be able to keep them at one point. So they say it is much more beneficial to take tantric vows, even if then afterwards you have to go for a short time into a hell existence, than not to take them. But not to take them carelessly, of course. You really need to know what you're doing with the basis of, yes, I trust that I can become a Buddha, that I can be free from suffering and causes of suffering. And I trust that I can have the skills to be able to help sentient beings, and I want to help all other sentient beings. When we have this, then, you know, at least the attitude, not the realization, but the attitude, then we can start with Tantra, because it brings forward the result. And what was really interesting, because we did Tara weekend, and Israel was, oh, it's my camera who disappeared. Sometimes it does that. And Israel was participating, and he was totally lost, you know, because he never, Israel Mo, because he never does this, but then he participates only on Wednesday evenings. And not only, but he participates on Wednesday evenings. And then he said, after it had sunk in, he understood that these visualizations of the light coming into different chakras and, you know, flushing out the negativities, he said, wow, I had a really good kind of almost sensational feeling for this, that it's the perfect way to heal the body and mind. So this is what Tantra is all about. It's not so much intellectual understanding, it's doing it, being totally confused, not knowing what you're doing, being able to be open to the confusion, so that the mind goes into a more subtle level where the tantric practices belong. They don't belong too much into the intellectual level, actually not at all, because it's the intellect that hinders us by creating concepts and thought, hinders us from having a realization of emptiness. I'm not saying like if you do a few Tara sadhanas, I'm not saying that you will realize emptiness, but when you do that, you get a little bit of a taste. And then I think you understand better what they say when they talk about, you know, absence of inherent existence. Anyway, so that's the tantric vehicle. So like that, and now is the dedication here. So these two verses, especially that last verse, it's good to learn that one by heart and make that your attitude, because then we have a good chance next life also to meet Dharma teachings again. So like that, may the gurus who show the noble path and the spiritual friends who practice it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. So by pacifying the inner hindrances, we will also automatically pacify outer hindrances. Nothing will disturb us anymore. And then this one, this is the important one. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma by completing the qualities of the stages and path. And this is the tantric path, the stages, completion stage, generation stage, completion stage, and the path. May I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, so this is the kind of structure that we will follow. So we have a few more minutes to little bit, you know, again, what Buddhism says, and because I find this very helpful. So mind and mental factors, we will not go into it, but just to know, mind is not matter, mind is clear and knowing, and when it is defiled, it is like the totally clear sky who has clouds in it. Yeah, and then we mistake the clouds, you know, that the clouds distort reality, and then we create karma, and then that results in suffering. So we'll probably talk more about mind when we come to the emotions tomorrow. The first teaching of the Buddha, we looked at it. It's very easy to be stressed and frustrated. That has to be understood. And we have to be discontent with that. We have to be discontent with our, oh no, it's playing. It's good. It's a good thing that it's break soon, because I think now the camera is gone again. Or is it here? Anyway, it's not so important. You don't see me. It's much better to see Tara than me. So anyway, okay. So then, you know, we want to get out of samsara. I'll leave it until the break. I'm not going to put it on again. So we want to get out of samsara, and we want to get into what is called nirvana. So then it's good to know there's 4 different nirvanas. There's natural nirvana, which is our Buddha nature, our potential to be able to live the values. Then there's nirvana with remainder. So you will still be, you know, right at the end of the path. You will still have a body that will die, because nirvana is also a deathless state, although you can then, anyway. So nirvana with remainder. So the mind is totally pure, but you still have this body, so that when you die, you're not going to be reborn until you choose so, unless you choose so. And then that would be nirvana without remainder. And then there is, in the Mahayana vehicle, is the non-abiding nirvana. That means your mind wants to, out of compassion, wants to manifest again and again and again and again, wherever it is beneficial, because you have universal compassion, universal wisdom, you have universal skills, and you are totally fearless. So then and universal equanimity, of course. So then you push to be reborn again and again and again. The same way as a dad or a mom, when they hear their baby crying, they're pushed out of bed. They don't have to say, well, maybe sometimes they say, but in general, you know, if they're not too tired and too exhausted, they're not saying, oh, now I have to get up. The compassion, the love for the child is just pushing them out of bed, and that's it. Yeah, so this is why then a fully awakened being, when they are in non-abiding nirvana, is being reborn again and again and again. What makes you a Buddhist is when you accept the 4 seals. That is, all compounded phenomena are impermanent. Yeah, that whatever has been put together will fall apart. All contaminated phenomena in the nature of suffering, and it has nothing to do with the phenomena itself. It has to do that our mind contaminates it by kind of putting inherent existence on top of it. Then, so we have to kind of accept that what we see is not pure, and it will lead to suffering, you know, like pleasure, contaminated pleasure. It's pleasant, but it's not lasting happiness. That's why, because it's contaminated, because we think the pleasant experience comes from the phenomena. Phenomena is just the basis for it. Then there's the other one, is there is no separate self. There is no separate self. And then the last one, only nirvana is peace. Nirvana means that total absence of any trace of wrong view on our mind. Then we can just look at the 4 misconceptions briefly, and then we stop here. So this is what we want to clear up. This is with the practice, this is what we have to from misconceptions, we have to make right view or right conception. We see spontaneously without having to think. Yeah? When we don't think, more like this, instinctively, we see things that are by nature impermanent as being permanent. This is why we get disappointed all the time when things fall apart. We see things that are in the nature of suffering as happiness. That means our pleasures. We see things that are by nature impure as pure. Here they talk especially about our body. Now, I'm not saying the body, you know, impure doesn't mean of no use. Impure means it needs a lot of care and upkeeping all the time for it to appear like pure. Yeah, we need a lot of product so that, you know, people are not, when they see us or when they're close to us, they're not going like, ooh, yeah. That the body is impure. You just, you know, just for 2 or 3 days, don't flush your toilet, because, you know, what we put in the toilet is a body product. So how can something so impure come from a pure body? Is not possible. And pure also means it's not in the nature of suffering. So, but don't, okay, you know, if you get really upset by this, it's not so important. The body is useful, but it's not pure. Only the Sambhogakaya of a Buddha is pure, is not in the nature of suffering. Then seeing, and then the fourth misconception is we see a separate independent self in things, but also in us, like in persons and in objects, you know, that there is a separate existence. Okay, so the sun is slowly coming directly into the window here, so, but we have a break and I will close the curtains. And although, you know, when I look out, I see the total clear sky. I don't know if maybe, you know, just this is where I look. Anyway, you're used to these skies in Israel. This is what I see. And then there's a bit of mountain there. So it's very beautiful. So when we doubt the nature of our mind, it's really good to look at the clear sky. You know, this goes a bit into tantric practice, into Mahamudra, to really look at the clear sky and think like, this is the nature of my mind. No beginning, no end. Totally, you know, totally pure. The sky is pure. No clouds, and definitely open, spacious. And to try to bring it in, into the mind, especially when you're like, you know, a bit like this. Very good to look at the clear sky. And in Israel, you're lucky because very often you have clear skies. Here in Switzerland, a bit more difficult, you know. And then to say, aha, the clouds, you know, these negative emotions, all this, just like the clouds, they come and go. But the sky behind is always exactly the same. And this is why also, you know, the question, which gets answered really nicely in the Uttara Tantra by Asanga Maitreya, that everybody has Buddha nature, like Buddha nature exists, everybody has it, and you can never lose it. So this is why also this text for Buddhists is quite important. I think Geshe-ma was teaching it at one point, wasn't she? Maybe in her last visit to Israel, or, you know, and she came personally, or then was already the COVID? Because I know I encourage people very much to go to these teachings. They are so important. These teachings on Uttara Tantra is so important to build up the confidence in cessation. You know, the kind of the arguments to prove why everybody has Buddha nature and why you can never lose it, even if it's covered. It's like the sky. The sky will always be there, but sometimes for days and days, it's covered with clouds. Okay, Leora was about to open your microphone to tell me whether Uttara Tantra was being taught or not.
No, by the end of this year, Geshe-ma will teach about Buddha nature.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's such a beautiful text. And, you know, when we lose faith and when we lose kind of hope, it's really good to go through these verses from time to time. Well, all the texts are very helpful. Okay, great. So now we have a break until 1:15. Again, I went 5-6 minutes over. I'm sorry. Rita, thanks for this lesson. I have to go. Yeah, that's fine. You know, you can come and go as you want, you know, come back in, go out, to do whatever you need to do. This is what the Zoom is great for. That the Zoom is really great, because I always think it's better people do a little bit than nothing, because they think, oh, if I can't get everything, then what's the point? Especially people have heard the Dharma before. So just, do whatever you need to do. Bring in bodhicitta into your activities, then even, you know, like everything can become a bodhicitta activity. It just depends. It's not the action. It's just, you know, we can listen to the Dharma and put on the camera and sit like a little Buddha there, because I think, oh, I hope the teacher sees me, so then he thinks that I'm a really good practitioner. But it's like absolutely rotten attitude. So, but you can go wash the dishes and think, may I wash away the delusions of myself and all other sentient beings? It becomes bodhicitta. So if we have the awareness and to bring it into our daily activities, then that's fine. So that's okay. So enjoy your break. And then in the afternoon, we do a precious human rebirth. We look what it is and impermanence and death. And if you have questions to what we said this morning, you can start with that. And enjoy your break. Okay?